I was really looking forward to today's shoot. I hadn't been out on a workboat for years. The Dead Rise is one of the most iconic symbols on the Chesapeake Bay.
Well, my grandfather was a Native American waterman, and I lost my dad to Vietnam, and it kind of skipped a generation. So here I am. I was born here. I owned my first boat at 8 years old, and still got one. I guess I'll have one till I'm too old to have one. These are locally grown wild-caught oysters. These came from the Rappahannock River. A disease came along back in the 80s, MSX and Dermo, that wiped out 95% of our oyster population. Oysters have made somewhat of a rebound, and it's a lot to do with private industry, investment, and nature. I believe this planet, if you leave it alone, it will heal itself. The issue is just letting her do it. This is the third oldest colonized area in the United States. This creek was established in 1624 by Robert Carter III.
Talking to William, I was amazed at just how large of an area he covers during oyster season, from the Rappahannock down to the James River and all the way back up to Tangier Island and then over to Chincoteague. So when one area starts to dwindle out, he just picks up and goes to the next. It's a very hard life, but watermen like William have found other ways to supplement their income, like the culinary and eco tours he does on the Rappahannock.
Up on some crab traps or crab pots, whatever you want to call them. A typical waterman will have between 200 and 300 of these, and they fish them daily, and it's done just about like I'm about to example. Not a whole lot different than you would see on Deadliest Catch, just calmer. A little bit warmer too. Here's a beautiful Jimmy crab. These are your money crabs, or your best value anyway. These here tend to go to the table market for steamed crabs when you're eating on your table. And if you notice the very narrow apron and the blue claws, that's what we call the Chesapeake Bay Blue Crab, where it got its name, right there. If you'll notice, there's these round circles in these pots. These are a very specific ring that is designed to let the small crabs escape. It not only preserves the future, but it also cuts down on the coloring and measuring for the watermen themselves. Well, if you notice the very wide apron on the bottom and the orange claws, that identifies her as a female crab. Anytime you're eating processed crab, these tend to go to the picking houses because the females are a little harder to pick, and Maryland has an astigmatism about throwing the female crab back, but in Maryland, the female population is so low they can throw them back. In Virginia, they run about 60% females as opposed to 10% females in Maryland. And these, if you're eating crab cakes, crab dish, anything that's prepared crab, you're eating this lady here.
Coming back into the dock, we saw a kayaker who had flipped out of his boat right in front of us. Not a problem. William just yelled out, "Coming around you," and turned that boat on a dime and right into the next slip without cutting the speed or the slightest hesitation. I wouldn't have expected anything less.